Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. And today we're going to be doing kind of a little bit of a different style video. I'm not going to lie, I'm worried for Max Holloway. If you guys haven't seen, which I'm sure you already have, because this is probably the biggest matchup over these next couple months. Max Holloway versus Conor McGregor is headlining the next pay-per-view event. And, my first thoughts when this got announced is, Max Holloway is just going to absolutely destroy Conor McGregor. But the more time I've had to sit with it and the recent outcomes of these fights that have been happening lately, I really am leaning more towards Conor McGregor. And that might be crazy to say. I know he's like a 3 or 4 to 1 underdog, but I just want to give a little breakdown on that fight, how I think it could go, and why I am worried for Max Holloway. So yeah, let's just get right into it, guys. Just to start, right out of the gate, if you guys have been watching these last couple, big UFC events, Freedom 250, and then the previous pay-per-view before that, Sean Strickland versus Hamzat, in these big fights, I mean, we just have these crazy underdogs, these people that are being given no chance at all. 5, 6 to 1 underdogs coming out there and getting the upset. First you had Sean Strickland versus Hamzat Chimaev. You could definitely see, I think, more of an argument for that fight going the way of Sean Strickland compared to Justin Gaethje before the fight, that is, because he has good striking, he has good cardio, he can go, long term, and he's always training in that wrestling singlet, man. He's got that, he's got those wrestling skills, not necessarily the offensive wrestling, but the defensive wrestling. So we had that fight, big upset, split decision, but I do think it went the right way. And then this last weekend, UFC Freedom 250, Justin Gaethje, plus 600 underdog, goes out there and fucking mollywops Ilia Topuria. Just puts a beating on him. Ilia was definitely competitive. He had his moments. He folded Justin like a lawn chair with the liver shot. Just absolutely was pummeling him with these body shots. I want to say it was in round 2 or round 1. In the 4th round, before it got stopped at the end of the round, Ilia Topuria had a great round as well. I could have seen that fight being 2-2. But he quits on the stool. He's done. And Justin Gaethje, the All-American, gets it done on the White House lawn for America's 250th birthday. I mean, that's like some fucking Rocky movie type shit. That's some literally like a movie ending. You could not have scripted it any better. I'm not saying it is scripted, but that is just the perfect way to sort of cap that off. So you have these two big underdogs, right? Basically back-to-back win. And then the next big event, you have Conor McGregor, a 4 to 1 underdog. And I'm not saying that adds any validity to the point, but I'm just saying I think it's something to take note of. The dogs are barking this year, especially in the main event. In the main events, I just think of the recency bias. I'm just thinking of the most recent 2 fights that were big fights, but I guarantee you there have been others if you go and look. I'm just picking those 2 examples because they're fresh in the mind. So already right out of the gate, I sort of with thinking about that, give him just slightly more of a chance. But okay, what does that actually have to do with the matchup between Conor and Max? Absolutely nothing. But there are yes, Max Holloway, he has been more active than Conor McGregor by a mile. Right? He's probably had 10 fights where Conor has had none in the 5 years that he hasn't fought. He was scheduled to fight Michael Chandler, pulled out, broken pinky toe. It is what it is. Yes, Max has been more active, but I really do feel like there are some legitimate arguments to favor McGregor in this matchup. Everyone likes to say that Max Holloway has this granite chin, and when he was younger, absolutely. And I mean, this guy can still take a punch, don't get me wrong. But in his last, I want to say 3, maybe 4 fights, he's been either knocked down or knocked out. Like Justin Gaethje, he was knocked out. I don't think they counted it as a knockdown because they didn't want to mess up his knockdown record. Then he fights Ilia Topuria. He gets knocked out. He fights Dustin Poirier. Yes, he wins that fight, but he gets knocked down there as well. So Max Holloway in his last 3 fights in a row have either gotten knocked down or knocked out. Like, the chin is being cracked. Max is not invulnerable to these strikes anymore. As much as we like to think he has this granite chin, and don't get me wrong, his chin is great. It's not like, it's not no Dominic Reyes, Johnny Walker, a gust of wind is going to take you out. But, like, he's definitely not... it's not the same chin that it once was, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And Conor McGregor, if there's one thing that he has, it's going to be the knockout power. It's going to be the power in the hands. I mean, no, he is not fought, but you don't just lose that power over time. And, he is training, right? Obviously, he's getting back into it. And I feel like the punching power, regardless of who you think is going to win, I think you can agree that the power side of things is going to be on Conor McGregor's side. And that sort of leads into the next point that I have is the weight, right? I mean, Max Holloway, he's I don't think he's bulking up. I think this is going to be more like his natural weight. If he was not to be cutting down, he probably weighs between 170 and 180 and has been cutting down to 155, like 15 to 25 pounds. That makes sense. Conor, though, is going to be the much bigger man and much more well adjusted to the 170 weight class. He's already had, I want to say he fought Cowboy Cerrone at welterweight, and one or both of the Nate Diaz fights were at welterweight as well. So regardless, Conor has experience at 170, whereas Max has never been here before. And that, that weight advantage is just going to lead into that punch power sort of point that I made, where he's just going to be stronger than him. He's just going to have a more likely chance of knocking him out. Obviously, that's not everything that goes into a fight, right? I mean, Max Holloway still has a really great chance, and of course the odds are reflecting that. Like, that's the obvious. But, even those 2 factors alone give him a really solid chance. Not to mention, he's already beaten him in the past. Conor has already beaten Max Holloway in the past, where, yes, I mean, they've, very different matchup, two very different fighters then, both very young in their career. But, right out the gate, that confidence, I'm sure that Conor would have, where he can go in and be like, okay, I've beaten him before, I can beat him again. Yes, it was like 13 or 14 years ago, but, he has that experience where he could, in theory, implement a game plan, from past experience to help beat Max Holloway. I don't think he will, because in that fight, it was very heavy in wrestling and control time. And I just don't imagine Conor's going to come back and just all of a sudden start wrestling, pick up on the fucking Habib style and just turn into Conor Nurmagomedov. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. But, I think it's a confidence thing. It'll help him, because yes, he's going back in there. He hasn't fought in 5 years, but he's fighting someone he's already fought. And there's a lot of tape out there on Max Holloway. Yes, there's a good amount of tape out there on Conor McGregor as well, but there's probably 5 times as much tape on Max Holloway. So, if he's being smart and he's got a good coach behind him, which truthfully I don't know who is coaching Conor, if he's got a good team backing him, they could come in here with an amazing game plan, because there's so much tape. Max Holloway has so much time in the octagon out there. So, it's definitely a possibility where, we could see that, yes, Max is doing good, but Conor just has a much better game plan for going against him. So that's just another factor that goes into it right there. And kind of the last, major thing for me is the stylistic matchup. Holloway tends to be, forward, going really forward pressure, pushing forward, throwing in high volume. And whereas, Conor, typically against someone like that has done some of his best work against an opponent that's aggressive. He at the end of the day, he is or was one of the highest, if not the highest level counter striker in the UFC at the time when he was active. I mean, think about the 13-second Jose Aldo knockout. Think about the Eddie Alvarez, I think it was round 2 or round 3 knockout. That little 5-piece combo that he hit Eddie with, unbelievably high level stuff. And how did he set up these knockouts? How did he get these knockouts? Obviously, his own skill. I mean, that's just a given. But it was when the fighters are pushing in and pressuring him, he's able to slip out of the way after they throw a counter punch, and then he's able to knock them out. I mean, I think even just those couple points right there are like solid arguments as to why he could win. I'm not putting out an official pick and saying that, yes, Conor McGregor is going to win. I just think it's a lot more likely than the UFC, odds matchmakers, whatever you want to call it, ruling this a 4-1 underdog for Conor McGregor. I mean, I do sort of, oh my God, excuse me. Fucking tired, apparently. I do understand. Yes, Conor has been out for like 5 years. Hasn't even had a fight in 5 years, aside from, having these little shitty backroom fucking boxing matches against nobodies where obviously he's going to look like a world beater. But even that time out, I mean, obviously he's going to come into this healthy. He's going to be well rested. Yes, he did have the issue with his leg where, Dustin Poirier in their fight was able to sort of calf kick and snap that leg. So there is that advantage for Max Holloway, don't get me wrong, where if he's smart, he'll go in there and he'll just immediately, as ruthless as it is, just immediately start targeting that leg. Even if you don't break it, you're going to significantly slow him down, and you're going to take away a lot of his confidence and a lot of his just speed, right? Conor's with that karate style, that bouncy style that he has, he's very heavy on that lead leg, and that is ultimately, in the Dustin Poirier fights, what led DP to being able to knock Conor out, right? And I could see Max Holloway going a similar approach. But I guess the gist of why I'm making this video is just to sort of put out there, like, yes, Max Holloway is rightfully the favorite of the fight. I'm not going to say he's not. But a 4-1 underdog just feels disrespectful to Conor McGregor. And I really could see him knocking him out. I think the fight really goes one of 2 ways, or maybe one of 3 ways, I guess, if you want to really get technical with it here. You have Conor McGregor by round 1 or round 2 knockout. If Conor's going to win, it's going to be there. I just do not see him getting a decision. I think it's like round 1, round 2, or bust. Under 2.5 or bust for Conor, let's say. Over 2.5 knockout for Max Holloway. Easy, because if it gets past that, if it gets into the 3rd or 4th round, all of a sudden Conor starts to slow down. Max Holloway is going to put it on him. He is going to put a beating on him in these last couple rounds. Or the 3rd way it could go, which would be Max Holloway by decision. Unless Conor is getting a bunch of knockdowns in the fight, but, Max's resilience is able to keep him in it, I just cannot see Conor winning a decision. Like, he's just not a decision fighter. We seen that with Nate Diaz, where, I mean, he did win by decision, but it was like barely. It was off of like a bit more damage, and I think just having like more like powerful punches and more knockdowns. Like if we're going off like strike for strike, like how many strikes landed, like in Nate Diaz, put the volume on him, and I could see Max Holloway doing the same sort of thing, putting the volume on him, peppering him up over time, hitting him with the jab, hitting him with the hooks, the overhand, throwing in a crafty kick here or there, because Max Holloway has just deadly kicks, right? So that could be a big factor at play right there. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll find out in 3 weeks. But that's sort of my breakdown on it. I just kind of wanted to get on here and put out a little video. Conor has a chance, I guess that's all I'm saying. And does it lean Max Holloway a little more? Yeah, but 4-1 underdog for Conor McGregor, it's just disrespectful to me. I don't think it's completely burning your money trying to maybe throw a little bit onto Conor. I wouldn't throw him in the parlay. If you're a parlay maker, you're someone who likes to gamble, and you're putting together 3, 4, 5, 6 leg parlay, maybe not. But that single bet, if you do Conor under 2.5 by knockout, those are going to be some juicy odds right there. Even Conor by money line. And I feel like as the fight gets closer, the odds are going to swell. And I feel like more people are going to start biting at the value on Conor just sheerly due to popularity. And then the odds are going to go down. But either way, regardless of that, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your opinions on who you have, if you've got Max or if you've got Conor in this fight. And I mean, just again, the point of this video, I am worried for Max Holloway. And I guess here in 3 weeks' time or less, we're going to find out, is it Conor or is it Max?